All day until.
You do the best you can, use the fees.
Well, how was it clean up there, Sharon told you I was here to take off.
Kevin, I'll-
Am I holding this so you can point at everybody for the whole thing then?
Yeah, yeah. She don't what?
Am I holding this and pointing at people talking?
I do it all the time.
It was every morning.
Right, making friends every day.
This
It's
one.
positive, yeah.
There is a positive.
I live by the model, I wake up, if I recognize the rug, I'm good.
I have one though. Every morning I look at the guards.
Brittany is. From Albany, so she should be here. Probably before 7 o'clock. Brittany. All right, let's go through the agenda. On the minutes.
I'll take that. It's better.
Questions on them?
Seconded by,
Oh, we'll call it on the floor. All right, the 4% raise retro, Sean, you want to take that?
I'll take that.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Deeds, do you want to do the planning council? Take over there.
Actually. And I think I'm gonna be abstained from that, right? I listed in there.
You don't have to,
I'm gonna go by the council.
there's no financial benefit.
Okay.
All right, stipend for the superintendent of public works, do you want to do council on that? Questions on it? Rotella Green. Thank you, council on that.
And we farmed it out to see if any other competitors, we got this better price. Is there a reason why we select down year after year?
There sure is, you know, it's over $12 million and, which is phenomenal for a grant. We get $12,000 with additional workforce, and that was the 10 million working plus for the grants. Jason can answer that too. Right, Jason?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
About the.
Oh,
And the reason why we picked Rotella for our company versus farming it out to another company looking for a better rate.
Oh,
You're not gonna be-
it's whatever you guys want to do, but Rotella's got a pretty good track record in the amount of grant money they brought in since we hired them. I think the best way to look at it, if you want your historical proof, look at the years prior to American Rosie starting. Look at the amount of grants that we got, dollar amounts, so we get like $100,000 grants total. And then look at the amount of grants that they've won since they've been here.
Time to read this, this is from Bernie. The city costs on return on investment and our services have been remarkable. Less than 1% resulting in over 22 million in awarded funds. But he also added the 10 million for DRI, which he was a part of. It wasn't just him. I'm talking just him, his 12 million, the 10 million that we earned with him with the DRI. This impressive fact letters speaks volumes about the strength of our collaboration and our effectiveness of our joint team effort. So, you know, I would love to say that you do well. For that, $50.
We have done price comparisons in the past. And we've gotten prices back there 3-4 times what Rotella asks.
sponsoring that,
Mr. Sheasley.
thank you.
All right, resolution 6, Robinson Meyer Pumper, do you want to do council on this?
Did we buy it? Did we get it in?
Last time, we saved $57 right at the top, because we bought it before January 1st. And we did it over a 7-year period, we'll save 200,000 and just tax money, that's the interest over a 7-year period, so it's a good financial investment.
And then, Chief, Pat,
Yes.
did they get the engine they wanted? I know that was also part of the thing was getting that model year or something.
Yeah.
They got the engine they wanted?
That is gonna work for our department.
Okay, good. I don't mean the engine truck, I mean like the engine component of the engine truck.
For the upgrades were made, for the expense would have been increased.
Yes, okay, good.
And what's the time frame on that again? We're looking at 2 years out.
Couple years, yeah, couple years don't plan.
And is what we have right now workable until then?
It is, we had an engine go out of service today, so I mean, we are definitely. Getting faced with a lot of, repairs and everything, but we are okay right now, but this was a plan anticipating the long road time. So it is important that we move forward with this.
I mean,
We are-
completely understand what you need to.
I feel like we're gonna be in good shape. When this comes in.
It's great. The other question I had about that too is, it's been inspected by our own guys, our own mechanics looking at it. And the reason I ask is the longer term in 2 years, I know we talked about how we recycle them or move them on, or it might just be good for scrap now. But I mean, have we done any kind of independent audit on it to see what can be done with it, what the value is of it?
The
and where
company
we-
who's, committed for the potential lease agreement,
Yeah,
was talking about after the fire truck is done, we're gonna look anywhere between $5,000 and $7,000. That's why Frank's buying them all the time.
Yeah.
For $5,000. That's all they're worth. Most companies buying for parts, Buffalo buys them for parts, if they're the same engines as they got.
So if I understand you correctly, we were talking about the 2003 American with France, when that is gonna be removed from service. It didn't sound very good with the monetary, value of it at that time. But I mean, we'll try to get the most out of it when it is on the service. It's, they don't make American with France anymore, so it's difficult to jump into that vehicle unless they're really.
questions? Thank you, sir.
Right, local law. Madam, can you come up? Well, there's a seat right here for you, if you want to sit there. I just wanted to bring you up, talk to you. Maybe talk to the council, about this resolution. This is the first step in the process.
Yeah.
And give the council an opportunity to ask some questions.
But first,
Sure.
And just looking to, once again, put the tool in place, so we can make this decision come October, that we want to start our tax rate at, it's not just fixed by a lot. It allows us to be a little more fiscally responsible. To get proofs to, outside creditors, that we are trying to be fiscally responsible, whether we use the tool or not is a question to be answered later, but we at least are showing that we're open to the idea of an increase to, do the responsible thing financially. That's where I'm sitting at. Not saying that we're gonna go to a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% tax increase, but. We have that option, I guess, in October, instead of making a decision now that we're gonna be at 2%.
When we passed it last year, we didn't have to do it.
Correct.
Well, we didn't
We didn't
pass,
pass
to
it,
clarify. We started the process.
But it never was,
It
we're
was
not.
never officially adopted as a
using it.
local law.
The,
Pass this resolution.
Right. Right.
This
It's a
is just step one.
four-step process.
Right.
and is this required super majority? Is it just?
No, 3 votes.
And last year, I mean, just as we're working on this, so the budget that we passed this year, with all the cuts and everything else. We're still pretty tight for this right now, and as you're considering. All they have to work with is. Salaries are the lion's share of the budget. Is what we're dealing with. There's not much more room to go besides. Significant cuts or.
This past New Year's Eve, we got like pretty amazing. I what they call about 20 Minerva, the party the young kids had there. Yeah, it's a Airbnb. There were 100 kids, 80, 90, 100, whatever.
tough to estimate by the way they were coming, but I got reports they were busting them in by Uber, vans, everything else, dropping them off, they were very rowdy. Language was out, was whacked.
Yeah.
Can you just give us an idea what went on that night? please?
Well, I read over the complaint on it, and it sounds like, a disturbance, began, in that area. Apparently, when our patrols arrived, there was anywhere from 25 to 30 individuals, William and Minerva. They scattered when patrols arrived on location, took off in the backyards. And then they saw there was another disturbance down in front of 20 Minerva Street. They responded to that, same thing, there had been, a large group there also. Apparently, from what they could discern is there was some type of fight that occurred. There was, I guess there was a male and a female there, parents that were picking up their daughter who was involved in a fight. They got her in a car, they didn't want anything to do with anything, they just wanted to get out of there. When patrols went into the house, there was another large group of individuals in there. They tried to get information as far as who rented the place and that, but they said there was it was rented by some guy named like Daz. So it could have been anybody. And but with that said, they put out a mass, apparently social media invite, and that's why all these individuals ended up there. And basically, trolls ended up dispersing pretty much everybody. There were younger people that were involved, and they had to contact their parents to pick them up. But there were so many, they couldn't get names. There was just too many.
But you had to take your staff from down here, right? The fireworks, whatever, they had to respond up there. At that
We
point.
didn't have anybody posted down there.
No, I mean, just everybody, you had
It would
crowds
just be
down
the
there, but
shift,
they had to go there.
It would be the ship
Yeah,
basically.
shift, right.
That responded.
Yeah, the guy lives in Florida.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
my
that's lives in
understanding.
Florida, supposed to be a really good guy, they take the cameras. There were cameras there that the guy could watch, they take them. There's two of the guys they talked to from Minerva Street, they said they talked to this gentleman. He has a ton of money because Father owns some coffee bean place in Peru. But he moved out, he's a local guy, but he moved out, he had trouble, if I'm not mistaken, I heard rumor, but I'm not sure, Chief, that there was some drug dealing, whatever, a couple of years ago in that, one of those apartments going on. I mean, we have basically that I know of three, I had mentioned them like 3 or 4 months ago about bed and breakfast here, Airbnb. There's one at 456 Morgan Street, and then you got a $700,000 house over in Irish Shores, 272. That's a Airbnb. I know, I'm a person, like, they're not here, I'm looking just to get something started to try to look at that,
We talked about it a few meetings ago. They're actually
Right.
looking in
because I mean,
legislation.
we
that
don't need that.
municipalities-
like they had UB Cluster Avenue and all that off Main where they hundreds and hundreds of kids and you destroy the place. I don't think our neighbors should have to put up with anything like that.
Well, that's one of the rare instances that you were able to track down a note.
Right.
But I mean, we don't have anything in the whole town, but we did, right? We had to pass the public nuisance law that doesn't fall under that, that doesn't have anything from that
I
at
don't
all.
think you need
There's
three
two things I might
complaints.
be
Yeah.
so one is the Airbnb and the other is the electric cars.
But I mean, something like that, hold these people accountable. I mean, I understand they live out of the area, but I mean, that's not an excuse either. I mean, if somebody's got an Airbnb and it's causing problems and they're having parties here and causing a disturbance in the neighborhood, that's one of the things that we need to look at when we talk about regulating these things or putting something in place to hold the homeowners responsible. If they're just irresponsibly renting these places out to anybody that wants to take it, they're causing a disturbance in the area. And there's been a couple of them. There's one on O Street that we had a lot of problems with a while ago too.
How many
A couple of
times-
people reached out to me about their
Chief, do you know off the top of your head how many times you visited that address?
I would have to look back on the complaints. I just looked at that one particular.
Maybe it would qualify under the public nuisance law, but I believe you had to respond 3 times.
I think if it would, I think if it was something that was frequent, like what we just dealt with right there, it would have been on my radar. I would have known about it. I can definitely look back in complaints and see, where should go.
And I'll follow up with Brittany Mike to see.
Yeah, it's just, I don't, I just don't want this to get out of hand that people know, because I think it was done online, my understanding for what the owner said. He rented, get the second, third hand information, that he rented to online to a credit card.
I think that's what most do, don't they? The
Yeah, it's,
Airbnbs, they do it online on credit
And
card.
it's like Uber, it's an internet app service. It's.
Uber, what's that?
But
I'm Uber.
it's all,
Thanks,
you know,
Jim. I
internet
appreciate
based,
that.
based services, kind of good.
And just one other thing before we get to the spring of that, we had talked a while back about. Vaping and marijuana, we have the ordinance about smoking, whatever, if we can start maybe getting that ordinance updated in regards to vaping, using drugs, illegal substances. Down in our parks, because I'm an old timer. You know, I mean, I don't wanna sit with my wife who might get offended, while she's with me, I understand. Can't be too offended. But, you know, that people have young kids down there, and you got these nitwicks that have no clue, that can't, you know, but they're sitting there talking on a joint and 2 feet from the family, which is legal, but we can pass an ordinance that, I believe.
Part of the ordinance, you can't be
Smoking
smoking
and drinking in our parks, right? But we can limit it.
While you're writing that ordinance for cannabis, throw in an Airbnb ordinance with it.
I agree with you. I got no
Throw in
problem.
an Airbnb ordinance if we're, I got news for you though, if it takes us, if you just propose, I remember when you brought that up about that house, that was months ago. And if we still don't even have an answer in the infancy of it, your cannabis thing's gonna be in 2027, 2028. Don't hold your breath.
They scream a lot. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's just some points brought up that said we gotta give them a little bit. And I believe that's my duty. Get ahead of it.
Anything else? Sure, Bishop.
Yes, I'm gonna piggyback on Jim's there with the Airbnb issue. So with the Airbnb issue, he did bring it up months ago. We should have at least some inkling from the city attorney. But I know the city attorney up until last week was a holdover. Myself, the mayor, first floor council member, we had a meeting with the Civil Service Commissioner, Tim Hoax. And he says that that issue has been solved and the mayor has confirmed that civil service did make a decision and it's out of the state's hand and the holdover issue is solved. Is that correct? Well, I told you that we received notification from civil service of the state. The notification we have is it's our job now to take, Mike was an elected position. Okay, now if we went from elected to appointed. So that's where the confusion was. So now we've got to have a council meeting. So I asked Mike, it's too close to this one. So our next council meeting, the next one we do in January, we're gonna bring up taking Mike's old position, the elected position, and removing it. So we gotta remove it, and then the next meeting, we've got to put the other one back in, which is appointed. And then we put a salary, and my suggestion is the same salary we used before. Don't give it increase, don't give it decrease. Same as it was before, we put it in as that appointed. And then it'll be in there as.
So you're gonna suggest appoint Rua, or are you gonna hold applications, you hold the interviews?
I got interviews already with 2 other people already, but I'll probably finish Mike out, finish the term. Which is the end of this year, because he's gonna run for.
For what, finish out what term?
Finish he's going to run for judge, and he's gonna run for assistant judge, which is
You know,
appointed by me,
It's
either
an
way.
appointment, it's not.
Exactly.
But you said finish out his term, for the rest of the, what term? If he's a holdover, there's no term, it's a.
The terms from the
Chris, what I'm
Charter
saying-
Revision Committee, they assign terms to treasurer.
Yeah.
So it's an appointment for a period of time. I don't remember,
Right.
7 years or
7 years.
7 years.
Right, but he hasn't-
Appointed to the treasurer.
No,
Yes.
but he's
Oh,
done
is
it.
it? It's 4.
Is it
It's
4
4
for
for
the
the
treasurer?
city attorney, 7 for the
It's 4,
treasurer.
same as
Or is
that.
it 6? 6 for the treasurer, 6 for the treasurer, 4 for the attorney.
But what term, he's a holdover right now off an elected official spot, so that term would have ended on December 31st of
He's
last year.
he's
but
still a
he's-
holdover.
But he's holding over, so if you,
He's actually a holdover until we make that meeting and take him off as an elected official. So he's still actually.
so we need to make this happen sooner than later, so you
We're
can
gonna
get
do
to
it
a
the
point
next
to
meeting.
somebody.
I'll make the resolution. I didn't have a chance to put it before this one, but I just got it on Friday or Thursday last week.
For the Charter
But
Revision, it's presented by the mayor and agreed upon by.
But what I'm saying is, if he appoints Rua, he's not appointed Rua for the remainder of this year, which is a term, as he's referring to it, as he's appointed Rua for the next 4 years.
Yeah, you're making an appointment for the terms for the chair.
And then you're saying he has intentions of running for office while taking on that position.
It's his decision.
That's his
It's not
decision
mine.
to,
It's not my
that's his decision to do, but you're not. What happened to the other 2 people you interviewed? You've already decided to give them a declination,
No, I've got to go through the interview process still.
but you're still gonna give it to them anyway, so the interview process is a dog and pony show.
say that yet, I'm just giving you the idea that I'm gonna go through the 2 interview process and I will make a decision. My decision, council approval.
Sounds like your decision already was made.
Well, the decision right now is Mike Rule until I get the determination off the elected part next week, next time we meet in January. Once it's eliminated, then we put him back on the other. So by the time we're in the end of January, early February, he will go from elected to appointed. And then we got it.
Be proposed appointed. He would be proposed appointed by you,
Yes, he will.
even though you have 2 other applicants that you did or did not interview. And then you're gonna run that by council approval, and then we have to decide whether to appoint you.
That is correct.
Provisional until that.
It's a process, and we're following the process, so I'm not changing.
I was gonna discuss my Canal Fest update. The mayor canceled on me on December 20th. He then canceled on me again on December 27th. He supposedly met yesterday. Do you have any update with who we were supposed to meet on?
Come around to me, I can-
Okay, so we're scheduled to meet on January 11th.
Yeah,
If you don't cancel again.
well, you canceled on me too.
When did I cancel?
Well, I made the one over at the Joey's, and I told you.
You mean you texted me and said be at Joey's at noon on Monday
Same way
after you
said to
canceled
me.
it?
Same way you said, we,
Me and you
Chris,
spoke and hashed out the meeting.
Chris.
You canceled on me twice, had your secretary send me an email that says be at Joey's Monday at noon.
The
with no
cancellation is
notice.
not showing up. I had my person, administrative assistant, send a note to you saying, I can't. make
2
it."
hours before our meeting.
What can I say? I did change it.
Twice.
Teach
Twice
you.
on me.
Then maybe it'll be a third and fourth time.
And if there is, it's eventually, then we're not gonna have a canal fest. That's what it's gonna come down to. Is that, then you're gonna come in here and go, well, why do we not get canal fest? On 1 vote, but if you don't remember last time, it passed by 1 vote. And when that pendulum swings back the other way and we don't have canal fest and they blame the council, the answer is gonna be, well, the mayor didn't wanna meet with the council members. You blamed it on Sean. You blamed it on Sean too. You said, Sean doesn't go to the meetings. I appointed Sean the liaison. He doesn't go to the meetings. You said, well, you're gonna go to the meetings and I'll discuss with Councilman Fisher. So I said, let's meet, cancel. And now you're trying to turn this around and say, well, you're just 1 vote. Who cares? Well, you're gonna eat those words, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't mind that.
Us against them, we stop it, you're acting like a child. Well, what we're doing, Chris, is we're trying to do what's something best for the city. I'm setting you up for Saturday, if you're gonna cancel now.
I'm not gonna cancel. I plan on being there. I have it in my calendar like the other
Stop.
3 invites.
Please stop.
It'll be a good time. And then just to go back to the resolution on the raises, since we're going down that road. When college kids do a term paper someday on tax and spend policies, they're gonna look at that agenda, and they're gonna say tax and spend, they're gonna say 4% raises blanket across for everybody. Which is built on the backs of union labor who negotiate those contracts, and you're saying there's parity to department heads based on the union contracts, I said the same thing last year. And then we have a few resolutions later to go over the tax cap if we need to. Raise taxes to generate revenue as we're just spending. Blanket discretionary raises for department heads is unfair to the department head. I'm not saying they don't deserve a 4% raise, but even if every single one of them deserved the same parity 4% raise as the other ones, which is also in line with the union contracts, we should have 9 different resolutions for 9 different titles with 9 different people with the same exact raise, and then that. But this is just a blanket discretionary raise. Hey, if I was a department head, I would be asking the unions to get an 8 and 10% raise next year, because you know the mayor is just gonna give you a parity 8 and 10% raise because the unions did it. Just pile on to it. When you have a union member who's out there collecting garbage, fighting a fire, patrolling a street, making 80 grand a year, that 4% is worth way less than if a department head is making 120, 130, 140.
I agree, we have no contracts for the department.
That's because they're called discretionary positions.
Wait a second, stop this. I am negotiating, getting out, I said, when the contracts are finished, which CSA was just recently done. We're gonna go over it, they've got all the information, they're giving me input on it, we're gonna have contracts for the independent department heads. And we're gonna create what you're talking about, that's being created, but right now, it's 4% across the board to equal what the other people in the unions have got, at least to get them some type of rate. There's sometimes they never got raises, Chris, there have been 2 years they missed raises. So because they're basically and little employees, so I can't allow that to happen, so at least I can give them a 4%, they try to get them up to where they should be. That's all we're trying to
But so the double prong on mine is, 1, the unions negotiated the 4%. So you're saying you're going blanket across. The second prong to that is, you're saying that department head A, department head B, and department head C all deserve the same blanket raise.
At this time, that's all I can do for them, but that's all I can pass to them right now.
Why couldn't you pass it individually? Why couldn't you say department head A gets 2.5%, department head B gets 5%,
Because we're
department
not
head C?
there yet, because I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely, that's a
I haven't sat
discretionary
down
raise.
with them individually yet, oh, we're not there
Yes.
You haven't sat down with them individually yet.
No,
All right, the resolution's on the table. Is there anything else on it?
It's not on the resolution. This was around the room and the spending of taxpayer money. I'm playing taxpayer watchdog at this point. So if you guys want to put the resolution up, get a first and second sponsor, force a vote, great. I'm just airing the opinions
Yeah, it's
of
already on
the.
the agenda.
Right, but I'm now talking about taxpayer spend, tax and spend legislation and how the administrative is basically tax and spend. That has nothing to do with the resolution
You
itself.
keep referencing the 4% raise.
Yes, as far as the taxation.
So
problem.
what would you like to see differently?
Each individual department head lined out. We should have tonight's, instead of having 7 resolutions, we should have 14 or 15 resolutions. And it should say, mayor suggests giving this department head A, this raise, department head B, this raise, and line it out.
Do you want to look at that in the future?
That, it will come out eventually, but it's gonna be very difficult to say one's worth more than the other, if they're gonna count. Very difficult.
That's why they're called discretionary raises. You're doing a blanket raise.
No, that's what we can do. I'm not gonna do this frustrated and get one better than the other.
Just from my standpoint, I get trying to be careful. I understand. And it's not contradicting it, but my first question is. These were part of the 2025 budget, 2025 budget.
Correct.
And in that process, you made those decisions that they were deserving of these raises, it's included the salary. These are what you considered fair raises for the department. And you reviewed their work and find it appropriate. And it's budgeted for it, so.
Until we break them out, which is pretty good.
Which I think
We're not here yet.
should be done, but I just wanted to kind of
Cool.
run through that. Thank you.
No, it's done.
You know, Jason Lamonaco on this one, he's here.
Yep, he's in the hallway, Jason.
So I think you mentioned you want to kind of speak to it a little bit. So I had a resident on Adams Street reach out to me just about their sidewalks and whatnot. And the condition that they're in. You know, it's tough. I'm here for the better part of the past 10 years and we budget $130,000 for water total. Cover sidewalk, and every year we get more and more behind. Really not a lot of money for the amount of costs.
No, we've got about, so keep in mind that the list that I have, the evaluation, that's only made up of residents that call. So we're not talking about every sidewalk in the city of Honolulu. There's way too many for us to look for. Right, when a resident calls in, we put them on the sidewalk list. We'll then go out and we'll evaluate it. We'll give it a rating from 1 to 10. Right. A 1 would be something that's got spider cracks in it. It's not a hazard. A 10 would be maybe you've got a huge sidewalk, it's like 4 inches high, it's a massive trip hazard. We want to prioritize those. Yeah. That list is about $1.7 million for each sidewalk.
We'll have $1.7 million on all of those. They're available. So based on the
Just the
100
list you have.
And that could be a 1 through 10.
Yes.
rating.
Right,
Yeah.
but I mean, what are we addressing?
And that's just-
So we're looking at 7s and above right now, is that?
Yes.
Rather.
It varies by ward because what we try to do is, with the amount of money given, we try to split it up as evenly as we can between wards. So there may be some wards where we're getting down to 7s, sure, like your ward. And there may be another ward where we're getting down to 6s, and there may be another one only at 8s. It just depends on what each ward is.
I mean, that's.
And it's also dependent on CHIPS money, correct? Like, I know we got a grant for sidewalks where we could spend some money in the first ward.
There's actually, right, yeah,
Well,
there's
that's
there's 3 programs that we do. There's regular sidewalk money that we do $130,000 you guys approve in the capital budget. Then I usually, the past few years, I've gone after CDBG grants. Those are like 200,000, and those have to be used only in low moderate income neighborhoods. So if you don't reside in a neighborhood that has a high percentage of low to moderate income households, you aren't eligible for it.
Problems, that purposes, those low to moderate are also the area of probably low sidewalks. I mean, it's kind of the older part of
It's-
town.
It's weird because they changed, like this last census, the last bid census change they made, for the first time ever, Millstream is, I'm sorry, not Millstream, Delawanda is included. As a blocker, they never had been before, so it changes, but you're always gonna see like the city center, so. That way from City Hall, you're always gonna see those blockers be included. You're always gonna see the area around Tonawanda Housing Authority included. Some of the fringe ones can change depending on how we redraw. I don't know what their formula is and how they redraw. It's all based on the census. Right. So that can change a little bit, but
I guess, does any of that get skewed? I mean, obviously you great for. is there? They got here, people, I mean, a whole set of sidewalks were repaired and they didn't even need. I mean, is there a reason that someone that might not be a separate fund, somehow come to the top of the list, if there's traffic?
It's broken down by ward, so if you're in for example, let's just say that there's a ward where the sidewalks aren't as bad, just move down further on that list. And it happens to be a low mod area, or that's the only place we can spend that money, you can get something down that gets fixed at like 5. Maybe, I don't even know if we've ever done 4, honestly, but we're not doing, it's level 1. Aside from if you've got, let's just say that this is Jenna's house, in front of her house. She's got a 7 here and there's a block here that's cracked. We're not gonna fix this and skip a block and do another block. You know what I mean? Sure. You're gonna fix all the defects in that area. Yeah. So maybe that's what they're talking about. But yeah.
And I guess how much of that is the city property trees? I mean, do you get able to break that out?
We looked at it and I can give you like a guesstimate. The reason I can only give you a guesstimate is because the way we put these things in, there is a column that we have for trees. And we'll put an X if there's a tree. But that's only marked if we think the city tree may have to come out. So if this is your sidewalk and there's a city tree right here and it's heaving, we're probably gonna have to take this tree down in order to replace the sidewalk. Or it's at least questionable, we'll put an X at it, and that's the only thing that gets referred to parks. They'll come out and say, no, you can cut that root. It's not gonna hurt the tree, go ahead and just replace the sidewalk, or they'll say we have to take the tree down before you replace it. That we do track on the sheet. What we aren't tracking is it a tree that's causing the sidewalk to be heaving? So what we did was, we made an assumption, so this is gonna be it's gonna be a high number, okay? If we saw like a 2-inch lip, because we do report what the defect is, at least the worst defect in that area. If we're saying a 2-inch lip, we made an assumption that a tree root probably popped it. And when you look at the ones that have lips and the ones that we know are usually caused by the trees because they want to be removed, you're looking at about $1 million worth of sidewalk. Or that 1.7. Now again, some of those may just be heaved and there's no tree causing it, so that number could be artificially high. We won't know unless we actually go out and visit every site and look at it.
That's, it's a lot of that's a result of many years ago, they put big beautiful trees in the place without considering the surroundings, the sidewalks and everything else, and what those are gonna do after 100.
Sanitary laterals, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess, it's, and this is kind of where I'm leading, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. That list, sidewalk list, do you share that with Dave? I mean, does Dave take a look at some of those sidewalks that may be on the list and it's like, oh, our guys can take care of this out of 4 hours? I mean, last year we fixed what, 12 blocks, 12?
30 something feet, it was about 30 something feet, I don't know how many blocks it was, but it was about 30 something feet.
Does,
No,
did you share that with him?
the only time there's 2 ways that DPW gets involved with parks. If there's a tree that might have to come out, that goes to parks, so they know about those. And then there's also a third component aside from the money that we budget, CDBG money, there's also CHIPS money, which Steve runs the CHIPS program. He's doing a street, you have to do ADA ramps along with just paving the road. So when we've got Dave paves the road and he's got 10 ramps that aren't ADA compliant, we add that into our sidewalk contract and we address those.
That's usually what the chips.
Then the CHIPS would reimburse us
But
for
that's
those ramps
specific to
on the
the
CHIPS streets. Yeah, and only on the,
Yeah,
not
not where
for
we
the
actual sidewalk.
So that was a rare occasion where we had our DPW guys
Yeah, that was-
fixing those.
Just a question. Now, the shading of the, right now, how do you feel about that? I mean, well, we won't know for a while, like I would think.
yeah, it's not gonna last as long, so you haven't
Right,
addressed the underlying issue.
Right.
But, I would say I was pleasantly surprised that we didn't get as many complaints from residents as I thought we would. I thought that, if you two are neighbors and you get brand new sidewalk and we shave yours, you complain that you didn't get a new sidewalk, and we honestly didn't get complaints. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Is there a significant cost savings for the shavings?
Currently, yeah, we saved money this past year. Can I say that in the future? I can't say it for sure. The reason I can't say it for sure is because 2020, our sidewalks were $7 a square foot. Then they went up to 15 a square foot, then they went to 20. And then this past year, back down to 16. So it's been extremely volatile since COVID hit. I don't know if there's an impact or from the stadium project, but I've never seen fluctuations like this over a series of 4 years, $4. what used to happen, like all the time until 2021, I think was the first big fluctuation. You know, I've got all my records, all the projects I did for 18 years. I can go back and you'll see you're like 3.25, the next year would be 335 and 350. But you know what I mean? It was like there's smaller incremental increases that you'd expect. I've never seen a double in price like it had for a few years there. And then we had this past year, we had a big drop. So
It does fluctuate.
2025, hopefully there's another big drop. You know,
We'll
we're
get
never
more
gonna get back down to
sidewalk for-
7.
We're gonna get more sidewalk done this year if it comes down.
If it comes down, we will.
Yeah, for the most part, we have to.
Yeah, we contract it off. So, and what we always do to maximize like the grant amount and things like that, there'll be a contract, once we go out, we bid it, and we get the low bidder, you guys have to approve the award. We make the award. If we get a low price, you get a change order. We're gonna add another $50,000 to the contract because the prices were low and do more sidewalk with the money that's budgeted. And then you guys approve the change order and we get more sidewalk done. So we always max the money that we have.
And the other, again, normally it should be unpopular. Suggestion or proposal, we're one of the last communities that still own sidewalks. You know, I know it's probably not the most favorable things, but I mean, is there a path to finding the money, fixing the stuff that's the city's property and moving towards giving the sidewalks back to the residents? Because even part of that, your homeowner's insurance covers liability on sidewalks, whether or not the city owns it. And in many cases, if somebody does hurt themselves, both the city and could be taking a hit.
And they don't have special liability homeowner policies for residents that live in the city of Tonawanda, it's the city.
But I mean, from a cost standpoint to the city, I mean, $130,000 a year. Or $1.7 million to fix everything. And then pass that along, take care of it, pass it along. It's right. I mean, how long of a project would that be? And probably legal here.
It would take a long time to turn it all over, but this was brought up
Several times.
2007 probably was the first time that I had this discussion. And the thought was to turn the sidewalks over, right? It was mayor at the time. And council didn't want to do that. They didn't want to just turn the sidewalks over, just put it on Amherst, for example. There'll be a call, whatever, the building inspector comes down and they basically write you a housing violation. You have to fix your sidewalk in front of your house. That didn't happen. Council President Zeiss came up with a potential compromise where we wouldn't turn the sidewalk over until all the sidewalk in front of your house had been repaired. There was no trip hazard. Doesn't mean all new sidewalk from property line to property line, which just means that everything that's damaged or potential hazard was fixed. Once that work was done the first time, then it would become the homeowner's responsibility to maintain it going forward. Which I think is, that looked like it had legs for a little while, but that didn't go with it.
Is that something you could pull up? Is that something that's available to kind of revisit?
I guess it would depend on how council keeps their records. A lot of discussions were in these pre-meetings. So I don't think. I'm pretty certain that there was never a resolution that was actually voted on. I think it was all just these discussions.
I know at one point we had. There was a certain percentage, do you remember that?
There was talk about that, yeah, sharing the cost of
Mhm.
doing the sidewalk, yeah, that was discussed later on. Yep.
When we looked into like tax incentives or tax breaks with the former assessor. I'm wondering if maybe there's no somewhere on that,
And is there
but
any
nothing came to fruition.
programs out there? And other,
Other than CDBG,
pretty much all of them now.
well, I know we've tried to get like safe routes to school. We didn't, that was not a successful application. I'm not aware of anything else that's out there.
Maybe we
And-
could ask for Tella.
Yeah, I mean, even without, I'll tell you flat out, when we do these CDBG projects, so for several years, I used to do mill and overlays and sidewalks on the streets, right? And then we started doing these sewer projects and the phase 3 area, so third year into these sewer improvements was right around Spalding. So we were getting money, we were doing sewer line. We saved the city about $1 million by using CDBG grants to cover the cost of doing sewer line in that area over several years. Once that wrapped up, then we switched to sidewalks. I can tell you that every time there's like there's an application you fill out and you gotta justify it and write up all that stuff, they always love that. The other half of the CDBG program is that mayors and supervisors from the south towns judge north town projects, north town supervisors and mayors go down and judge south town projects. So every time I've had the supervisors and mayors up here and I have to do presentation and go out to the job site. I'm gonna not name the individual, but there's a mayor that comes in and does the review and she says the same thing every time. She says, I don't know why you're spending city money on sidewalks. In our municipality, it's the residents' responsibility.
I mean, when it really comes down to it, the residents will pay for it one way or the other, it's a matter of, are we spreading it evenly? Across the residents in our taxes, or will we each homeowner responsible? Possibly the homeowners should take a bigger look at that, right? Otherwise, we're spreading it.
It's kind of like everything else. It's a big cost that you're gonna face at one time versus having
Right.
a smaller cost spread amongst a much larger.
And it just kind of makes sense to kind of take that off the city's plate.
Two questions to that, Bill. One, if you were to do that, could you make an ordinance or some type of rule that if you replace your driveway, you have to replace the sidewalk too? Because what I do notice now is people who replace their driveway and have 8 blocks in front of their house, only do the 3 blocks in front of the apron and leave the other 5, even if they're damaged, because it's the city's responsibility. Whereas if they're gonna put the driveway in anyway, they're already got the concrete firm on location, would it make sense to obligate them to fix the sidewalk if it needed repair?
Yeah, I mean, that would be up to, whatever you. and the
Whatever the
attorneys
ordinance is,
decide,
right?
Yeah.
And then the second part to that is, so we do this and we turn it over. And I'm the good neighbor and I put in my brand new sidewalk, all 8 blocks. About 5 years later, it starts to heave because the city tree between the street and the sidewalk. Do I then go file a notice of claim against the city and say I want my sidewalk fixed?
That depends on how you guys pass the rule. And a lot of the municipalities, if it's a city tree that causes the sidewalk to heave, the city's still responsible for replacing the
You
sidewalk.
never go unscathed completely by the city, if you've got city trees probably damaged still.
Yeah.
So the city will be responsible still. Never get all unscathed, but what are you gonna do about the 90-year-old lady who's married to an 89-year-old guy and they can't afford it? And
I mean,
you're never gonna go.
This does dovetail into there's a couple sidewalk issues I wanted to bring up, like, since we're kind of talking liability. I don't know how detailed I want to be. Because I don't know what this can potentially lead to. So I'm gonna be, let's just say there's an individual who. So we get something in writing, so we get a letter from a resident saying that, there's bad sidewalk in X location, in front of your house. The city's now put on written notice. That means if somebody later on trips after a reasonable amount of time, so we probably have like a year to address the issue. If somebody were to trip after that reasonable amount of time is up, they could sue the city and we would be liable. So the policy was for several years when I first started was, if you get a written request, it jumps to the top of the list to address the liability. That changed because, we had issues. It was, I remember a resident in the 4th ward. We spent a lot of money doing written requests in the 4th ward and we weren't able to address some pretty bad sidewalks. And an elderly resident fell and got hurt. And we didn't think that was right. So we changed it that we were no longer gonna just fix 1s and 2s because somebody wrote a letter. We were gonna try to address the potential trip hazard to avoid injury to the residents, trying to protect residents' safety. That was part of the one. So prior to that being an issue, this individual put a letter together and listed their walking route, which was in the 1st ward, and it took almost the entire 1st ward budget just spent on her walking route. She put in a written request and she's going to the top of the list. We've now changed the policy. This individual, I don't think knows that, but she has another walking route. Where we've literally got a letter with 32 individual addresses on this route that she walks, and I'm sure the intent is the individual thinks that they're gonna get it all replaced, because that's what happened last. That's
So
what
she changes her walking in, she just sends a letter.
But
You do it again.
the issue with that, and the reason I wanted to bring it up in the liability discussion is because of the new policy, we'll note that it was a written request, but we're still gonna fix the 10s and the 9s and the 8s before I go and fix the 2 that may be on her walking route. Unfortunately, because the individuals put us on written notice, we're potentially liable for those sidewalks and we aren't going to address them.
So this perpetuates on itself again.
Then go back to your standpoint, you said a 1 through 10, so I'm guessing 0 is manipulation brand new.
Yeah.
So I got a 1 with a spider crack in it, you're on written notice, I trip and fall, even though it's not the trip hazard itself. Same liability, right? Just because, so I can pretty much just blanket right letters for any sidewalk.
You could, and we'd be on live on written notice for any, if it's a defect. Now, if there's a crack and you're trying to sue the city because you say you fell on this crack or we wrote a, spider crack.
Mhm.
It's not gonna hold up in court, because unless you've got something over like a good, I don't remember if it's a quarter or a half inch, what the tolerance is. They're gonna toss it.
It's called parking. And correct me if I'm wrong in this one, though, I guess it's a property issue, but we're not liable for potholes if a vehicle gets damaged in a pothole, correct?
As long as you don't have written notice.
If we have written notice with a pothole and the vehicle gets damaged, then we're liable for the damage?
There's, two things that have to happen. First of all, you have to be put on a written notice. It's not a phone call. That's a letter in writing. And you're given reasonable time to address it, and you don't address it in that, whatever the court decides the reasonable time is.
Right.
And then you get that, you're liable.
For damage to a vehicle on a pothole, but all you gotta do is throw some hot patch in it so they can't go boom and pop the tire.
So again, I'm making up times here.
Yeah.
So don't hold on to this, but let's say you get a written notice on a pothole. And a week goes by, and a week's considered reasonable time to get the letter, get somebody out there and get some hot patch in there. And we don't do it, and somebody gets up their car,
But then they have to go through the process, notice a claim, all that.
file a claim, our insurance agency is involved,
Why don't we take a look at what other municipalities are doing to address? And what's freaking
It's
Something
worthwhile to
gotta
pursue.
do,
It's
yeah.
something we continue to talk about.
Yeah.
But it's budget going the way it is, it might make more sense to.
So if we did that though, take it back at him, so we go that route, we take the 130 out of the budget to fix those sidewalks, turn them over. We could still apply for CDBG grants and stuff like that, CDBG.
I don't
Sounds
see why not. I had to talk to, we have Paul Orlando works at Erie County, kind of administers the project. I want to talk to him about that before I give a solid yes or no. I think we could.
But the alternate of that is we'd be responsible for fixing
And
the city property, problematic ones, which really the bonding right now is still. Before we can turn vote.
And all of it doesn't go away, you still get the city trees, no damage, you still get a bit out. These are that work.
you're probably you're probably around 55, probably only sign like a sidewalk, it doesn't look like a city tree. But
That's not really current sidewalk, but remediating the issue.
And from what we talked about, the only remediation for the tree is taking it down.
pretty much,
If we cut the roots to remediate the sidewalk, then we're at risk of things collapsing.
and this is happening before too, Chris, back to when it was written, and we jump to the top of the list. We fixed a desperate request where there's a city tree causing an issue. Again, if we can save the tree, we save the tree. If we can cut roots and not get close enough to the trunk where it's gonna kill the tree, we'll replace it. And I've had somebody, 8 years goes by and the root starts popping the sidewalk again. And I'll write another letter, so I go to the same spot again, and it's the same sidewalk. That's
Right.
caused by a tree issue, but the tree wasn't close enough to actually have us take it out.
And I don't know if Minerva specifically was the tree that fell due to a sidewalk cut, but that tree really went to that person's house on Minerva between, Maine, yeah. I don't want to say his name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Sidewalk was after.
Sidewalk was after the tree fell? What caused the tree to fall? I thought it was because they cut the.
No,
That was the whole thing?
Inside, yeah, so
But the tree
The
roots
tree
were never.
fell off the sidewalks with this sidewalk.
Well, I'm not saying that, what I'm saying is that there was no work, like, we never touched those tree roots. That tree did some serious damage to that house, and that's why we don't cut tree roots. Right?
That's why Park decides whether or not we can cut the tree roots, or if they're too close to the trunk and we have to take the tree out.
Get the tree out of there.
Yeah, I'm not an arborist.
I mean,
I think they have an arborist on staff. They make the call.
Pardon?
You still have members.
Yeah, I trained.
Oh, boy. So there's the other issue that I wanted to address too, is the trees that are on private property. I don't know, you guys have seen Mike's letter? He has like a proposed letter of how to address.
Yes.
When you
that was
got-
a while back.
Yeah, like on your yard and damaging the city sidewalk.
Yes.
So, we need a decision, we got about 30 of those locations.
Right, and we've got to, is that letter gone out or is that?
No, he wanted to get council approval, of course, he's done that.
Gotcha. Should do that.
Bring it up, I mean, yeah, so send us a copy of the letter, bring it up, do something.
I think it might sort of sound good.
Yeah, son.
Yeah, I didn't know there was an ask to send it.
To have it
Yeah,
approved by us, we read the letter, it says basically.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
Great letter.
If you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
Then I think.
You're good with it?
Good.
Absolutely. They're gonna bring it up for a resolution, right?
No, we just need.
As long as you guys are okay with it.
Yeah.
I know there's another, this is sort of unique issue, but which I'm just familiar with it. 633 Fletcher, that's the house that's right across from the high school.
Yeah.
So we initially had that on a, it's getting to the point where it's gotta get replaced. They have a stone wall, it's like about 2 feet high. The stone wall actually rests on the sidewalk. So it encroaches on city property. We can't rip that sidewalk out without taking that wall out.
So the wall's not on a footer, it's on the sidewalk?
It's at least encroaching on the sidewalk enough where you're not pulling the slab out without damaging.
But do you know what the?
It's a retaining wall, so it's about 2 feet high, and then there's like a very steep. Sloped lawn that goes up to the house.
Then they have the circular
If
drive.
I wanted to put that
Correct.
same wall in today, would I have to have a footer?
You wouldn't be able to put that in on city property.
No, but if I put it on my own property, either.
That would be up to the building inspector.
Okay,
Yeah.
but.
But it would be on private property, it wouldn't be, you know.
Even on
we
private
own-
property to put up something like that nature, don't you need a footer? Frost line footer?
You can, a foot or you can tie it back also into the slope, you can put a dead man and tie wall, retaining walls back. That's what
Okay. But in this case, for some reason, it encroached onto the slab of the sidewalk.
This has been there for probably 70, I don't know, 6 years.
Yeah,
That was in
yeah.
high school.
It's been
Yeah,
there
it's been there
forever.
forever. But we own like the sidewalk there, if they wanted to do that on their own property, you've got the edge of the sidewalk, we own at least 6 inches to a foot beyond the sidewalk. So it should have been back from where it is.
Basically give the tree letter to change the tree to.
Well, here's the issue with that. And if you guys are okay with this, it's fine, but the problem is. With the tree ladder, our answer was if you don't take it down. We're gonna rip the concrete out and put blacktop in, and then it's your responsibility to put blacktop going forward. Blacktop is a decent surface, you know, to walk on, but what makes this a little bit unique is that it's right by the high school, so it's a highly trafficked sidewalk, there's a bunch of school kids that are on it all the time. So I prefer to do something more permanent to fix it.
And your recent one was by Mark.
I can't remember when we talked to them about it.
Is there a tree?
It didn't get as far as the other, you know, like the trees and stuff like that, that was.
I was just running this by. Mark.
This just came up. Alright. And 2 other real quick things, I just wanna give you guys, okay, if I can get a verbal, okay, that's fine. So. We did that Fletcher Street project, we did storm sewer lining before DPW paved the road. I had a bond on it for like 150 grand to do the work. We ended up doing the work ourselves in house and design work, so we didn't hire a consultant. And then DPW did the spot repairs, they actually dug in short spot repairs, which saved us a ton of money. And then we also ended up going off a county bid, which saved us a lot of money because we weren't paying OPT. Long story short, we did this for way cheaper than 150 grand, so I got money in that bond. We had an issue with residents at Rogers near Hackett. There's about 3 or 4 homes at that. On Rogers, but right near the intersection of Hackett, where their basements are flooding pretty consistent. Now they've all gone ahead and they paid and they put backflow valves in there, so it shouldn't be an issue for them anymore. But prior to doing that, we looked at the sewer, we televised it, because there are a couple sections on Hackett that are upstream to their houses that weren't lined. And they weren't lined because the pipe was in good condition, blades in good condition, there doesn't seem to be any signs of leaks or anything like that. It's possible that if you've lost some of the gaskets over the years, you can get some leakage through the joints. And we could line it relatively cheaply under that same bond. It's the only thing that I'm worried, and I wanna make sure you guys can see the videos. Dave's seen the videos, you know, Brian's put out the videos. You see what the condition is, it's in good shape. Visually, right? So we're gonna go out there and we're gonna line it. So the only thing I want everybody to be prepared for is if we line it, you know what's gonna happen. The residents that put the valves in are gonna say, oh, see, it was the city's fault anyway. There was a problem with that sewer that they're now fixing. But I've got the free video and you can watch the whole thing. It's in good
But
shape.
even if they make that allegation, the check valve is not something they can do under a notice of claim. That's.
They did it on their own.
faucet.
They didn't want their basements flooded.
Right, but even if they're,
Preventative measure.
right, but even if their basement was flooded because the water's going backwards because of the city sewer, it's still their obligation.
Unless, well.
And I'm only saying that because I had to put a check valve in on mine because they relined the sewer. They screwed up when they punched the hole for the relining. it was causing my water to backflow, and I put a check valve in to stop it, but then when I flushed the toilet, the water wouldn't go out. And then eventually the city, I don't know if you were the engineer at the time when I bought the house in 2012, but I had to pay Mark's Plumbing to come out and excavate the street out of pocket. They verified it was the city's fault, and then I had to file a notice they claimed to get my money back. It was a very lengthy process to get the city to correct their issue. So just them putting the check valve in because they're sick of the inconvenience.
Probably should have called us right away, because we've got the video that would have showed that there was nothing.
It was
And we
2012,
can-
I don't know if they had video in 2012, it was 2012.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's happened before, like, we punched in. About 7,000 laterals, I think we probably missed about a dozen. Where, because you televise it and you mark off on the video, 25 feet left, 3 o'clock, there's a lateral penetration, right? And you do that through the whole pipe, so you know where they are. They line it, it's a solid pipe, so no water's getting in. No water can get in this pipe once it's been lined. So what you have to do is you then have to go through, you have to drill. They open up each lateral location. And like I said, there has been probably about a dozen times where they missed. And we'll get a call and we'll review the video and be like, no, there's no penetration, the contractor out there will come out and they'll open it up right away. But one of the things also, when you've got these liners in everywhere, again, solid, think of a straw between two manholes, right? There's no way water's getting in. Until you start poking the holes. Once you poke a hole, because you've got to be able to drain the sewage from the houses into that pipe. The only water that's getting into that pipe now is from the residences. The residents own the lateral from the main all the way back to their house. So when you're still getting high water flow, it's because of the issues that are on the private side. And that's something we've been facing forever.
If you mitigate it through a check valve, your choice and your cost.
Right.
That was the first Band-Aid I put in, the $1,200 check valve.
Yeah,
Because it corrected the water coming in, but it didn't fix the water going out.
right. The very last thing, we've got in the capital budget this year, there was sort of down the dollar amount, we did fairly high dollar amount, it's to replace the roof. We talked about this when I went over the capital budget with you. It's for the DPW garage. That's what it's got the solar panels on it, and they're gonna be removed and all that. What I wanted to get the okay from today, if I could, is if I have the okay to go ahead with this project now to start it prior to you guys voting on the bond resolution, I can start, get somebody on board and get this thing started to be designed and do it together with the office, DPW office roof, and just put it all as one project and realize some cost savings.
What roof is this?
This is for the DPW garage.
Okay.
So we've got money right now for the office area.
Yeah.
Not parks, just the DPW office portion of it. But then there's the vehicle bay. It's a massive roof. And that was going to be done under a separate bond. And as long as you guys are still, you've approved it on the capital budget, but technically you can say, when you get the resolution from the attorney, you can still say, no, we don't want to do that roof. So I want to make sure you guys are on board before I go ahead and start this. So technically, I'm not going to have the money to do the improvement until you guys approve the bond budget.
And when's the bond budget gonna be?
Yeah. We meet with the bond attorneys, get all that stuff ready. You don't actually approve till like May, which means it's really late to get anything done this year.
Gotta be done, the roof is going, I mean, it saves some months in the long run.
Yeah.
Is it gonna increase the amount of the bond?
No, it'll be the same one. It'll be a new bond, it's in the capital budget. I'm not changing the dollar amount from that.
Right.
I'm not gonna start a project until I get it.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we already approved.
All right. Yeah,
No, I don't, that's one dollar amount, so right now. Yeah.
yeah, this is just letting me start early,
Yeah.
try to get done this year.
Correct. Okay, just ask us for the money in May, you're gonna ask the money, maybe ask the permission to start it.
Yeah, I won't
Change the
have
budget.
the official approval.
That's fine, I get it, you're not changing the budget, the money does not change.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor?
Sure.
First of all, the zoning project, that we're working on, the proposal, CPL has gotten back to, us on that, and we're going to, we gotta get the zoning done, to be accepted, get our, DRI money. So there's a lot, the zoning we gotta finish. And that zoning proposal is in, now the process is, we get it accepted by the attorney, present it to the council for approval at hopefully our next meeting, and then what we can do is start the process in February, which is getting all the zoning in line, which is our downtown zoning, waterfront, and our mixed use. Those are the ones we got to, so we're really excited about getting that going because it also, this is the LWRP, which we had, we didn't finish. When you were here, and you were here also, Jenna. So that WRP, we're on the 10-yard line, we dropped the ball. We want to finish that so we can get it accepted by the state. As you saw that when you were at Jim and Chris, you were at the DOS meeting yesterday. The other day, it was very important to get this stuff done, because it's part of the bigger plan. And that's why I really important to get that done. Another one is a coalition.
I thought the council already approved that rezoning back in like 18.
No, that was one, that was just one. And not the, not the zoning
So
itself.
it's the city attorney has.
Yeah, it turns out to be good. Never got finished. That's what I'm trying to finish now. So we're gonna get it finished. We had, we took, did a committee, put the committee together, and we will get that finished. Along with the LWRP. Polar spray pad, Sean, which you got Sean Ryan, and I got Martinez Ricardo. That will be starting this morning.
Awesome.
So that's really good news on that. Swing Bridge Overlook, who's involved with that? Sean, we're involved with it, Chris, you're involved with it a little bit. So that is going to be proposed and get started in 25 also. The other one, which is the last one on the agenda, from the engineering standpoint, we're waiting for acceptance, is the one for Niagara Street. Now, we don't have enough money to DRI to do all of Niagara Street, redo the whole street. It's like a $7 million project, we didn't want to spend 7 out of 10. So we went with other projects, so that project, what we're trying to do is on Niagara Street, put in country gutters. On the one side, which is on the riverside, so right now it's nothing, there's nothing, no gutter, nothing there on the side at all. So to repave it and put a country gutter, we're trying to do that through grants. And I can't do that unless we finish the design, so we're gonna finish that design, which is very important. I think we talked about, this here, pass this around. I'm really impressed with this, because this is something that, we picked up. The Buffalo News presented this. It's the best park in 716. And, we wanted it at the end of the year, for 911 Park. Best park in the Buffalo News for 716. So it's a nice thing to have. We keep talking about, are we doing our job, are we doing your job? So I ordered the flag to come into the company. When it comes in, we're going to take a picture of all of the parks. I like the parks and let people be in the picture of the Veterans Park, or not Veterans, when you come down by Mississippi Mud, it says welcome to Niagara Park. I want to do it there. I think it's important. The guys get involved, they'll get them excited, they're part of it. They did a great job. It's just one of the best parks in 716, so that's something to hang our head on. It's important. We picked up a $2 million Department of State grant, an additional one. This $2 million one is for the canal ramping and the boat docks you're putting down there. And you may say, well, isn't that part of the DRI? It is, but there's additional $2 million from DOS, just so is the DRI from the state, it's from the Department of State. So it's a different grant, so we're gonna take the 2 million and $1 million from the $3 million DRI, which will free up 2 million additional money to the DRI. So I talked to Ben Vidal at the meeting at the Department of State the other day, and he's all excited about it because now it frees up $2 million to spread out amongst more projects. So instead of getting maybe 10 out of 12 or 9 out of 12 accepted with DRI, we have a better chance of getting 12 out of 12 accepted. I think that's super exciting. So that's good news. Canal Fest. Want to do it afterwards, or meeting, or do it real quick? All right, real quick. Canal Fest, I told them the option is we either make it less or it doesn't happen. I said, it's not just the council, a lot of people aren't interested in an 8-day event. Well, we got this, we got that. I said, it doesn't matter. Let's just find some common ground. My suggestion was, I talked to Jen about it, I talked to Sean about it, I talked to Chris briefly about it. And Dave, Jim, I think I touched briefly on it. One is that we can't do it, we can't afford an 8-day event. I mean, the police can't monitor an 8-day event. We don't have the personnel. We lose Sunday, we lose Monday, we lose half of Tuesday. Their big concern is the Canal Fest parade. That's Tuesday night. So after 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, we let the non-for-profits come in, set up. Not after that, parade starts, boom, our not-for-profits on Canal Street kick in. All the rides, all the games of chance are in North Tonawanda. What do we have left? We just have our not-for-profits and the Main Street ones that are from Canal Fest Kearney people. But what about all Irish people? Well, I am not gonna let them put not-for-profits, I mean, from the canal or Kearney on Irish. Because then it's gonna cause problems. I talked to chief about it, and he agreed, just gonna bring people, he's gonna have to monitor with additional personnel. So when he brought Snowfest brought the last night, they wanna do a pole climbing contest. But it's canal. Well, those
Greased pole.
grease, not that grease,
Oh,
pole,
for
but
the 200th
the climbing, with the harnessing, you go over the top, bring it down, the contest. So it's gonna be an event. Instead of, I love it, I love it. So it won't be anything there all week except for a event, a one-day event. So I'm pretty happy about that. Then they brought up, well, what about, Ramblin' Lou, he's on Monday nights. I said, so I called Larry Donovan, I said, Larry, let's change Ramblin' Lou, call Ramblin' Lou, so we change it to Wednesday. No problem, he changed it, Ramblin' Lou to Wednesday. I said, one was very easy to work with, the other one wasn't. Rick was easy to work with, finding common ground, the other one was somebody brought with him, was very disruptive. We can't do this, but look, just listen, let's talk and find common, we found common ground, so many different situations. So now, when I sit down with Chris on Saturday, we're gonna try to fine tune this a little bit better. Because it needs to be broken up in days and timeframes, when we can do it, so chief knows when he can go down, and actually, so they can promote and advertise the fact that, hey, it opens on North Tonawanda on Sunday, it's not open on the city of Tonawanda until this day, this time, and this is what's happening on the city of Tonawanda. And once we go through it and fine tune it, Jenna's on board, Chris will be on board, and when we talk, and then, if Sean, you agree to look at, make it less, I'm open for conversation. And I think it's something we have, but it's either this way or the highway, because there's no other way we're gonna accept it. There's no other way I found that you guys are open for it, and if we don't make adjustments and reductions and timeframe, because an 8-day event just is not.
And it sounds like the campus footprint has changed.
Gonna.
But the games of chance now
All
also
the
be
games,
there.
I mean, we refuse all games of chance, we refuse all rising and kidding rise. So everything is going, we had it for damn it 39, 40 years, and they've had it 1 year and they complain. So you know what, it's about time it stays over there. And I'm glad it's being recorded because I feel that strongly about it, and we've done it for all this time. And so then the last thing that came up was, we'll talk about it Saturday, is what about pay? I said, do the math, we get 30,000 divided by 8 days, do the math and subtract 2.5 days. I'd be happy with that. Nothing less. And they said, okay, I said, but I will bet you, they're gonna have a meeting tomorrow night. I had a meeting with them last night before I go to Christmas, their meeting's tomorrow night. And if it doesn't go, then it's done, we lose it completely, which is fine, okay, that's their decision, not ours then. So they're gonna meet with theirs, can they do it? We're gonna try to, they say they can't. They told me that our not-for-profits on our side wouldn't allow it. Well, little did you know, I've already been in communication with John Bender. Little did you know, I've already been in communication with the Bob Starr from the Lions Club. We have no problem. They say they can barely get manpower down there to man it. Or woman, whatever you want to call it, people coming down, they can't do it. So you know what, I think it's gonna be a fairly good situation for us, and a proof of the pudding chief. I was hoping he came in this morning, but that's what we talked about, all those changes, I know we can knock, $10,000, $12,000 easily off that, by just changing the footprint and everything over there. And the only thing on Irish Street, between Seymour and Main Street is going to be the pipeline. That's it. No not-for-profits, no food vendors that are counties, no games and cans, and all the rides over there. I think it's a win-win, if we can fine tune it, and they're screaming, how we can do this, how we can do that, we can work those things out later on. But I think just the basics is what I'm looking to do, get it out there, throw it out, see what your thoughts are. We're gonna go into another session, which want to come to me afterwards, give your opinions. Chris and I are gonna meet Saturday, we'll go through the finer things, if we can continue with this, but I think it's a good thing, at least take a look at it. It won't be us canceling, it'll be them doing it, but we're less than 8 days.
I'm on board if you can meet all those points. Those are the things that have been carved out over the years. Those are, the reason that's voted no, because they haven't listened to us, they haven't talked to us. And our only negotiating tool is better no vote. So I hope they take it seriously, and I hope they,
The one choice they have, and if they say no to it, it's them saying no, not us. And that's what I like. Well, the mayor's the one that said no, or the council's the one that said, the council didn't say no, mayor didn't say no, you said no. It's not us.
just shocking. So maybe
So,
Just Sean didn't say no either, just.
what is Jim saying?
For 30 years.
No. That's fine, I just think it's, it's, you got 100,000 people going through it. If it's available and it's something that you can do, chief, within your budget, how do you say no to all those people who come see what we have? That's awesome.
It enhances their city and it benefits their city.
That's right, it doesn't benefit our city, we spent $33,000 on it. And,
And we bring up an element of shenanigans and trouble into our area that makes
that's what
things
gives
go
you a chance to
right.
rise, absolutely, now it's gonna be all on them, so I wanna see them maintain it with 2 officers moving forward. Ain't gonna happen. That's, that was a big thing, did you wanna say the exact, I do have to share that, do it now, right? I need to go to exec session real quick, any down?
I didn't think.
Okay, go ahead.
Done.
Yep.
And motion to go into executive session for personnel of particular persons, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Peasley, all those in favor?
Right. Quiet back there.
So I think if you highlight them,
I'll call you, 'cause I don't- I'll call you, so I don't have to put it in writing.
yeah, stop the recording,
Oh, man.
probably because you don't have the IT guy.
Mr. Peasley, all those in favor? All right, we'll take.
Sam,
All right.
so now you just gotta log in.
Bottom line, I gotta go to the
We have
bathroom.
adjourned to the formal. I don't think the audio came back on. We're gonna pause right now.